Hello everyone, Comic Novice here, and this is my simulcast on my YouTube and podcasting channel. This episode is dedicated to just escapism. Why? Because I am an educator, and today is my first day of summer vacation, and I am quarantined, and am I also am having to take digital online professional development, which would have been in person, but hence quarantined. Anyway, this is dedicated to escapism because I'm wanting to escape having to do said courses. First off, Stranger Things just barely dropped on Netflix, and it was 7 episodes. I can honestly say that that's exactly what that was, 7 episodes. I feel as though it drug on way too long. It could have been simplified into 3.5, 4 episodes. And then we'd be on series 5, which should however many there is going to be on series 5, could be consolidated into half of that probably as well too. But we'll get there on July 1st, I think it is, of 2022. Also, if you ever come across on Netflix the series Choose or Die, I suggest possibly thinking of something else to do. During the movie, I was an hour into it, and I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to let this run on the background, and I reseasoned some of my cookware. So yeah, choose or die or reseason your cookware. I chose reseasoning my cookware. All right. Anyway, to the proper escapism that I have been using since I can't do anything is reading comics. And we're going to dive into 2 different topics. We have new comics and some other stuff. So the first thing, what am I reading? Well, to me, the thing that I'm most looking forward to when I pick it up at my comic store is Superman Action Comics. I really like this whole War World story. I was not intrigued by at least issue 1 of the Future State War World that was done back in 2020. But this story has been very intriguing, very compelling, and it's going even longer, which is fine because what else would they be doing? Because the Justice League can't do anything because they're dead. So I also look forward to the DC versus vampires because I do like a good vampire story. I've heard some comments about how it's, not that great or maybe think it's just average or whatever. I think it is, to me, more enjoyable than the Deceased, the zombies, because I hate zombies. They don't make any sense to me. And then, of course, you have, superheroes and villains that are zombies, and yet they can do their powers, but they're brain dead, but whatever. Anyway, I have my issues with zombies, but vampires I like. I really love the reveal of the king of the vampires. I want to find out how that person became said king of the vampires. Maybe I should do like a whole breakdown and look at that. Starting this new comic book day, we get the Road to Dark Crisis, which I'm looking forward to. And I love that, a lot of people are already calling this crisis dead before it even came out. Again, clickbait city. You have people who are in these forums, on these YouTube channels, on these podcasts, and they've already decided that that's what it's going to be. And so, of course, no matter how good it is, they will refuse to enjoy it because they will not be able to be proven wrong. And, just go in, maybe lower your expectation if that's what you want to. And if it does not, I don't know. I'm new to comics. Again, Comic Novice, it's a YouTube channel. I don't understand people's annoyance, their frustration with why, there's so many crises. I mean, again, being brand new into it, I feel as though you had in most years, or well, maybe not the New 52. I'm not up on all of the New 52. I would like to because I've heard the criticism, and so I'm really trying to dive into the New 52 era. But at least from my understanding, and I might be wrong, but we had the Infinite Crisis, you had the Blackest Night, followed by, I guess, Brightest Day. I'm not sure if that would be called a crisis or not, but it did go across so many different forms. And then you had Final Crisis, and I feel as though that those kind of came back to back to back to back, maybe even interweaving in some instances. I don't know. I'm brand new to the whole thing. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But to me, everybody's complaining about too many crises, Dark Knight's death metal, you have this or whatever. Like, isn't it the same thing, except, you didn't have a YouTube channel and therefore you were kind of either on board or you grumbled not on a public platform? I don't know. That's just me. And I will go into it excited to find out what's going to go on. Obviously, we know that the Justice League will come back. I'm curious to find out what we're going to do with this current Justice League, because I just say, move them to Earth 2. Like, let there be 2 Justice League books, but 2 different worlds that are going on. I think it'd be only fair to not just like send them down to the minor leagues and be, backups or whatever, and Young Justice type thing, but to just kind of give them room to do their own thing, maybe grow their own characters or whatnot. And then every so often, maybe we could have, a crossover. Not too often though, but yeah. And then of course we have I'm trying to be making videos and reviewing the Trial of the Amazon mini event. Now, the mini events have been, I guess, if you're going to complain about events, there's a lot of mini events that are happening. And, we had the War for Earth 3. We're just barely going to come to the conclusion of the Shadow War, which took place over Batman, Robin, and Deathstroke Inc. book series, as well as their own Alpha and Omega series and whatever else came in between. Maybe I could see the frustration with all of these mini events. And then, of course, you have the Dark Crisis thing. And then, of course, because of I do understand some of the frustrations. And to me, how I'm kind of dealing with my frustrations with certain things, especially the news and politics and what's not that's going on, I've just found myself just purchasing older comics. And they're older comics to me. They're not the Silver Age, they're not the Golden Age, they're not the Bronze Age. I have been purchasing, I've gotten a couple of New 52 series that I'm kind of interested in. I've also just barely picked up the Justice League of America that came out in 2006, which had storylines by, I can't even remember the guy who wrote it, but the art by Ed Benes, I really am digging a lot. So I picked up issues 1 through 41. I'm very intrigued by that. I just barely bought the Batman Superman omnibuses for the 2006 all the way up to probably, I'm going to guess it goes all the way up to where the beginning of the New 52 came out. And then I've just been picking up Superman comics. There's older Superman comics from the 80s, the 90s, 2000s. And my rationale for that is just because I love the hope that is surrounding the character, which is Superman. They might not be all complex stories, but I do like the hope. I love the characterization. I love the world building. And I kind of, wish I would have been into comics back in the day. I didn't, because I was already overweight and a sci-fi geek. I didn't need another mark against me for, the bullies to pick on. But, that's just me. Superman comics are just so enjoyable. I don't know many of the big series or whatnot. I'm just picking up random issues here and there, and they are just joyful for me. Now, speaking of things that could or could not be considered joyful, we have the Batman Fortress that just barely came out, I think, last week. And then And according to what I've been told or heard through the grapevine and whatnot, that a lot of people aren't particularly thrilled with at least one page worth of dialogue. And, you have a crowd that is getting, breaking into businesses. And then, and I can see the outrage with some of the dialogue that they have. It says Batman is looking on this crowd that is, starting fires, is looting or whatever. And it says these places all have insurance, not my job to protect their profit margins. Now, I can definitely see where people are really outraged by this whole thing, because you've had in 2020, that was the philosophy of why they let so many things go, is because of that mantra, I guess you could say. And I don't think that's right that we have a superhero allowing people to, and if you look at the businesses, these aren't like your Targets. These aren't your Walmarts. This looks like probably mom and pop stores or something like that. Even though the TV says, Wayne Tech Industries or whatever, and it's a big flat screen TV. I don't feel as though that is the right attitude to have revolving around, theft. However, I do agree that, Batman does have a little bit more importance on stopping other crimes. Like, for example, this Joker villain guy that has a J and a Ha written on his face. And, he has a gun wielding on a father and I'm going to guess his wife or something like that. And they're both crying. His buddy is also there. And, this is, what the purpose for Batman is. I can definitely see if rioting is happening, the least of his concerns is the rioting. It is because these are just people that are taking advantage of opportunities. And what you want to do is you want to stop the evilness that is happening. And to me, on a scale of evilness, the people that are taking advantage, mob mentality, are like lesser threats compared to what is currently going on with this gun-wielding maniac. However, I do agree that, to say that insurance will cover that, I mean, it's ridiculous. If you go back in time and you find articles that discuss, we were insured, but I don't know what was covered for, because I don't know whether we are covered for losses in the civil disturbance. We might not know for a few weeks or so. Again, it is the small business owners that I feel as though are the victimized by this, but everybody just thinks, if you own a business, that you are well off. So I disagree with that. And then, of course, the writer was like, oh, I'm being attacked or whatever. If we go back to Batman Year One, we have Batman who is coming and preventing people burglarizing somebody's apartment. Now, I guess if the person who wrote Batman Fortress saw this, he's like, they have insurance. It's okay. The little people are the ones that matter most, I think. And I feel as though that Bruce Wayne, Batman, does understand that. But again, these are two different situations. You have one where it is crimes of opportunity because of a power outage, compared to people who are just burglarizing an apartment. To me, it looks like almost broad daylight on that Batman Year One. But I it's just a little tone deaf and dishonest of the person who thinks that they can't, it should be allowed because, they are insured. The last thing I kind of want to talk about is the dishonesty with people who are YouTube commentaries on comics or whatever. I like numbers. I can argue numbers. I might be wrong, but one of the things that everybody is pointing to is the lack of, DC must be, and, I will tell you, I do prefer DC over Marvel. I find the characters, the heroes, a lot more compelling. And so that's just where I lie. But I don't like how people are using the ICV2 website saying that there is a massive problem. Now, because if you compare and contrast when you had Diamond in charge of all of the numbers and all the shipping, there's still some discrepancy between ICV2 and Comicron. Comicron currently, here's this thing for 2020, 2022 for January. So according to Comicron, it said it projected, Detective Comics 1050 to be DC's bestseller of the month. Okay, so they predicted it, but they can't really put it in their top. They can't put it in their top lists because they're not 100% sure. Because at the time there was no numbers because DC was going through a different company, through Lunar, and that is perfectly fine. But to say that these numbers are accurate because the data that they used were sales rankings for customers that use, I believe, the Comic Hub system. Now, a quick search of the Comic Hub system. Here, I pulled up all of the Comic Hub stores and counted them. There's 133 stores. Okay, now I went over to Google, and this probably is incorrect, but according to Google, how many comic book stores are in the U.S.? And according to this, February 4th, 2022, there's over 2,500 stores in North America alone. Okay, I count 133. Now, granted, this might be a larger sample size, but at least for me, my comic book store is a very Marvel-heavy store. My argument is, my comic book store is on this list. Does this number represent? Does this, list represent a good enough sample size? Because to me, a lot of YouTubers are using this list as gotcha. And again, one of the things I talked about was liking DC versus Vampires. Now they have some one-shot series as well as a spin-off 6-part mini-series in this thing. If it was not selling well, and I don't see it on here at all, but if it was not selling well, you'd think that they would not do a spin-off series. They might not do these one-offs. However, they are, because apparently it probably is selling well, better than ICV2, because they are just using 133 comic stores compared to the entirety. Now, I do know that not all comic stores sell brand new comics. There's at least one YouTube channel a week that discusses and interviews people who don't do any new. And I'm not talking about those ones. I'm talking about the direct market, the ones that get the brand new ones. And I feel as though that there's some dishonesty there. And the reason why I say that there's some dishonesty there with these numbers, I want to go back to when Diamond had complete control of the comic industry back in February of 2020. You have on their list of top 10 comics shipped by units. And according to this, they were also using the Diamond comic distributor numbers. You have number 1, Wolverine, X-Men 6, X-Men 7, Gwen Stacy 1, Giant X-Men, Jean Grey, Amazing Spider-Man 3, Star Wars Darth Vader 1, Batman 88, X-Men Fantastic Four 1, Batman 89 is number 10. Now, if we compare and contrast that, this is estimated units sent through Comicron using the same supposed numbers. Notice Wolverine 1, X-Men 2, X-Men 3, Batman 4 and 5. Going back here, Batman 8 and 10. If they're using the same numbers, and again, one of the things that this talks about is how DC has a number of cardstock variant cover prices, which means, they have these units fused with the cardstock and the standard stock. So is this what it is just with the standard stock? Is this dishonest? Is this not the complete picture? You'd think that if they were using the same amount of numbers, they would have done that, unless, it was just too hard. So if I click on units, what will that give me? So if I click on just units, that gives me the same identical list. So again, the Comicron list does mirror the ICV2, but the ICV2 chooses to only focus on the, I guess, non-floppy of the bunch compared to the that, which, is fair, but I don't see anywhere where they discuss that they are just looking at the floppy cover, not the, well, I guess they're both considered floppies, but the non-hard cover. So there's two different numbers there, two different tallies. So my question is, what are they not doing with the current era? Because everybody is using these numbers as a gotcha. But if you, again, over 2,500, 133. Small sample size, but again, when YouTubers make videos, they neglect to mention that these come from these are from Diamond, and they are not from. And where is it? Okay, wrong tab. These are from the Comicron or Comic Hub system. Okay. Oh, look, there are over 100 stores using the Comic Hub system. Yeah, there's 133. As this is a small, non-random sample of over 3,000 stores. Okay, so there's that. And again, they're counting the numbers differently compared to Comicron. So maybe it's not dishonesty, but everybody is failing to mention that this is not the perfect system. It is a boom, gotcha moment. And I don't know. I'm very passionate about numbers and data. And when people use it for evil, I think they should be called on the carpet, but they won't, because you don't get the clickbait. I guarantee this video probably will not have that many views because I don't have a clickbait. Maybe I should do a clickbaitish title just for the fun of it. Anyway, I'm going to conclude this podcast / whatever video. And thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, whatever. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. I do this because it's fun. It's good escapism too. I hope you've enjoyed whatever I've brought to you. And if not, whatever. Thank you for listening. And until next time, keep reading.